how has doing the YouTube stuff on Soundsphere, like the live streams, how has that helped with your career almost?
Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture.
And I'm Andy Murray from What Culture, and you're watching Tom Talks Rubbish.
Subscribe below.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talks Rubbish, and stand back for another interview. This time, I'm joined by Jay Sillence from Ink Block Productions and Soundsphere Magazine. So welcome to the show, Jay.
Hello, thanks for having me. How's it going?
Really well. So if we take this back, where did your passion for either films or music begin?
Since birth. So I mean, that's a joke, but so I've always been an artist. Ever since I could hold a pencil, I've been drawing and doodling and sculpting out of plasticine and stuff. So I spent a lot of my sort of like teenage years, college, university, doing art stuff. I did like fine art, animation, film, stop motion, metal sculpture, all that kind of stuff. So everything I was doing was sort of art based or theatre based.
Yeah.
I'm a huge film nerd, absolutely obsessed with movies. I'm the kind of guy who can watch a film once and then remember all the quotes from it. And I just think it's a fantastic art form. And my DVD collection, Blu-ray collection it's insane. So I films are basically my life. I get so obsessed with them and I could talk about them forever. So skip forward load of years where I'd lived in different places in the country. I came back to York, which is where I'm from, and I met a few mates, made a few friends who were like starting up a company, and they invited me to join. And and then from that, Ink Block Films was born, and a lot of stuff we do is like commercial things, but I've also got a few short films in the pipeline and a few short films I've done for commercial people as well, those music videos and all sorts of stuff. So
oh wow. So how did it then go from, I know it sounds really strange, but like how has your passion for film stayed alive whilst you've been working in the industry?
I think, you know what, no one's ever asked me that, and I don't know. I think again, I'm just a nerd. So I think the cool thing about film specifically is that you can watch it as an audience member and go, great, this is good, I enjoy the narrative. But then when you break down all the separate elements like lighting, shot composition, music, sound, like all these technical things, it's more and more fascinating as it goes along. And working commercially, I use all those little bits and bobs I've gathered along the way to try and grow as an artist and be a better creator, I think. So there's always new technology coming out. There's always new films to watch, as well as loads of old films. I love going back to watching, films from the 30s and 40s and 50s to see how they did things back then. And obviously now you can just CGI anything you want, but back in the day it was like a real chore to create this stuff technically. And I admire the craftsmanship behind it, and it's again something I aspire to be that much of a crafts person. So yeah, I think just finding out about new technology and the different roles that there are to play in making a film just really gets my juices going, you know.
Fair enough. So you talked about CGI and there being some sort of a lost art there. Do you think that as technology's evolved, sort of the artistry of films has gone away?
I think, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, in some cases, yeah. Marvel films are great. I enjoy them, but they've become, in my mind, a bit of a factory process of churning out pretty much the same movie every time. For my degree, many moons ago, I specialized in stop motion animation, and I love watching films from like the 70s and 80s where it was, again, the original Star Wars, or God knows what else. It had, stop motion animated characters, and you can tell there was a lot of time and effort and labor gone into that. There is still a hell of a lot of time and effort gone into CG stuff as well. Some people think it's you press the CG button and it all happens, but there is a hell of a lot of craftsmanship gone into that design. But I think it all comes down to design. If you've got cool looking characters, cool looking spaceships, whatever it is, CG is a tool to make that thing happen. Just like props, puppets, muppets, whatever it is, that's a tool to make the imagination happen. So often when I get a bit bored of like a fantasy film or an action movie, it's usually because that first design element is missing. And I think, yeah, could have made that look cool. You could have given it bigger ears. You could have given it bigger guns. If I see a cool designed spaceship or something, doesn't matter if it's CG or if it's a model, it's a cool looking thing. So I think more attention should be paid to that initial design phase than the rest. But that's just my opinion.
Fair enough. How important is a good story in a film to you? Because for me personally, if I'm not invested in the story, all right, I just go bored of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's essential. I think it's absolutely essential. I was having a conversation just the other day about Tenet, which was great. Tenet was a fantastic, spectacular film. I didn't care about anything that was happening. I just didn't care about what was going on because I had no emotional investment with the characters. Story was good, I guess, but I just didn't care. I think writing is where it's all about, and it doesn't mean that it has to be a unique or original story. It just needs to be told well. But there's a lot of rehashing of stuff, reboots, all that kind of stuff, and I'm 40 now, so I love seeing like, oh, let's get the old Jurassic Park characters back. Let's get the old Star Wars characters. I do love that because it gets the geek in me going. But there are so many books, comics, poetry, things throughout thousands of years, well, hundreds and hundreds of years of writing that you could create original ideas from. And they don't. They just want money. But there is still, small independent filmmakers who are creating really good, interesting, unique stuff and stories. And I think one of the coolest things you can get nowadays with the internet and modern technology is Kickstarter. I have a lot of friends. I've got friends, and they think of an idea, they want to turn it into a feature film or a short film. They do a Kickstarter. They raise their money that way, and then they've got complete control to create whatever they want without any interference from having to make loads of money, I think.
How do you think the pandemic has affected the film industry? For you personally, how did the pandemic affect like your industry?
Well, for me personally, I got a lot of animation work. So there's a lot of me sitting down just working on things I could do remotely. What we're seeing now, or at least in the past, like this summer, I think, was a lot of films that were started during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So Batman, Jurassic World, Dominion, things like that, which have all recently come out in the past few months, were massively hit during the pandemic. And it's forced people to get creative, but there's still something lacking where you think, oh, maybe they could have done that a different way, or why are there so few people on the screen, or why is everyone blue screened? And it's probably because they had to get creative with how they did stuff. I think technology is getting smaller and more affordable. So I feel like the pandemic has made TV and streaming more accessible. So fewer people have been going to the cinema, but also independent filmmakers, like I said, have been able to buy this gear and just make their own stuff. There's a fantastic film festival in York called Aesthetica Film Festival. And I was doing some work for them, and I recently saw a bunch of short films, series of short films. I think it was last week or the week before, and it was all things that were filmed during the pandemic. So
Wow.
they were forced. The filmmakers were forced to have one or two actors on a screen, and it was like you can't have all these people. And the themes were kind of similar. They were usually about isolation or loneliness or something, or anxiety, and they were really bloody good, like really, really bloody good stories because those constraints were there. So it made them just focus on telling a good story with one or two people in, I guess, dialogue, just people in rooms talking or people outside. And just, instead of it being a love story, it was about someone having a panic attack. And I think that's a really interesting concept to go down rather than what you tend to get. So I think there has been, from independent filmmakers, a lot of really, really good, unique work that's come out of it. It's forced people to get more creative.
As someone that works in the film industry yourself, are you at a point now where you'd rather see a film from, say, a young up-and-coming indie director than, say, someone big? Like, I'm not going to name and shame a director, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. If it's good, I'm happy to see it. Like Dune, for example. Dune was incredible. Like,
yeah, I agree.
And that blew me away. And that was a film where, again, a lot of CGI, but it was done in the right way, and the design was incredible, and the spectacle was there. I saw it in IMAX, this gigantic IMAX screen.
So did I, actually.
It was so good. And like, I haven't been that blown away by a movie since, I think, Return of the King, like in 2003 or 2004. So Denis Villeneuve is one of my like favorite directors at the moment, because he has that kind of indie film sensibility, but puts it into Hollywood. And yes, his films are very sort of slow and meandering, but that's what cinema is. It's just all encompassing, and it's emotional, and it's got the right balance of sound and music and performance and visuals. So that particular film was just like, well, this is the kind of Hollywood I want more of. This is the interesting Hollywood. But as you've got, a lot of popular filmmakers in Hollywood who are getting older, they're starting to repeat themselves. I want to hear those fresh young voices of filmmakers. I want them to be given a chance, as long as they're not copying the old people. Because you get that a lot with young filmmakers. They say, "Oh, I love Michael Bay movies. Bad Boys and The Rock are brilliant. Let's make a Bad Boys film." And it's just empty action. Fun, it's good. They use technology well, but there's nothing else to it. So I want this sort of new wave of filmmakers that are coming out today to be more concerned with story and less with technology and spectacle, I think. And streaming might actually have an impact on that, because you can't get that huge, grand spectacle on your telly or your phone. So hopefully people are going to start, paring it down and going, well, how can we tell a story that you don't have to see on these massive screens? But then, equally, there's a shift as well to TV series. People can tell a better paced story that's more emotional, more engaging over 10-hour-long episodes than they can a 2-hour film. So I think it's affecting TV in a really positive way as well as it is on film.
Fair enough. What would be like your two pieces of advice for someone that wants to be like a direct in the film industry, if they want to be a director or something like that?
Oh God, I think just writing is always good. Don't be concerned with money, because like I said, technology is getting more affordable and easier to get the stuff you need. Try and use friends and stuff as well, if you can, and just anything you can to tell that story. I think the core thing is finding a really good story, something that you're passionate about, and just do whatever you can to make it work. Pick up a camera, go out and film stuff. Use your phone if you need to. I mean, again, I'm doing this on a phone, and it's got a really bloody good camera on it. So you probably could shoot a decent movie on it. Don't get caught up with the technology. Don't get caught up with trying to impress people. Just tell a good story, and the rest will follow. I think it's the best thing I could say.
Fair enough. So as we wrap up the portion of talking about ink, is it ink blot or ink plot? Because I always feel like
it's ink blot, like a Rorschach.
I always feel like I say it wrong, and I do apologise for that.
No, you're saying it right.
Ink blot. As we wrap up that portion, where do you want to see ink blot in 5 years or something?
I want it to be. I want it to be like a platform for young filmmakers and independent filmmakers to produce work. I think that'd be really, really good. I've got a hard drive full of half-finished scripts and ideas just floating around that I need to dust off and produce. And it's often hard to do that when I'm caught up in a bit of a treadmill doing work commercially. So I'm trying to make more time myself to produce my own personal work. But ultimately, I want it to be to move away from that and be a showcase. So we can produce and lend equipment to and just help support young filmmakers who have a great idea and maybe don't have access to the cameras or the tech or a platform to put their films on, and just support people. I think it'd be really, really cool. So that's where I want it to be in maybe sort of like 5 years time or something.
Fair enough. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it sounds kind of cool, doesn't it?
Yeah. So moving on to your work with Soundsphere now. How did you first connect with Dom? Because you said you've been working with him for over a decade, right?
So Dom, I have known for about almost 12 years, I think. And I used to live in London. And it was horrible and I hated it. I was there for 5 years. I would not recommend it to anyone. I have friends who absolutely love it, but personally, I just didn't get on with it. So I came back to York, and I hadn't. Oddly, it was the city with all the opportunities and all the jobs, but I couldn't get anywhere in because the competition was too fierce. So I came back to York, and I think there was a networking business week, a York Business Week thing that was happening at the time. And I put a suit on, and I think I made some cards. I just got my old Canon printer, which is still underneath my desk, and I stuck some like artwork on it, and just got some nice blotted paper and printed off cards at home, and just cut them out with scissors, and went armed with some little business cards. And I, spoke to a load of people, and I saw Dom. And I saw Soundsphere everywhere, and this brilliant display that he had going. And he was just like the most welcoming, like charming.
He's such a good guy.
Such a good. His presence and his charisma just like it emanated out, and I was like, wow. And he was like, oh hey man, I like your style. And I think I had blue hair at the time. And he was like, oh yeah, looks cool. And I was like, yeah, cool. So we had a chat for a bit, and I gave him a card. And we talked about the magazine. I talked about what I'd done, and then I didn't see him for like a few months, I think. So I was busy doing other stuff, and then and then I kept bumping into him at gigs and events and different things because he's so sociable. I just kept seeing. I was like, oh, it's that guy again. It's that guy. And the thing that pulled us all together quickly was. I decided to volunteer for if I get this right, a volunteer-led youth film company that was funded by the council in York, and it was called Chaos Media, with a capital K and a capital Z, because it was down with the kids, Chaos Media. And basically, through some European funding, the York City Council managed to get a bit of a grant to help produce stuff, do some photography, radio, video in events happening in York. And the idea was that young people and people with learning disabilities as well were able to sort of get a bit of mentoring from people who are a bit more professional. So I just decided to lend my time to that. Worked with some incredible people there, and a guy called Mike who was there as well. He was one of the mentors. We became very good friends. Turns out he was living with Dom. So Tom's house. So it's like everything was connected. And Mike was also doing film. I was doing film. We got on really well. I went and had some pizza around at Mike's, and there's Dom again, just sitting there again. So it's like the universe just kept drawing Dom and I together. So I just offered my services. I said, hey man, if you need some photography, need a writer or anything, I'm here, just to getting my career back on track. And lovely guy that he is, he said, yeah, gave me a few opportunities. And then Dom, Mike, myself, and another friend of ours, we all started up a little business together called Creative Condition, which now Dom runs as a PR company. And then he moved away, so Mike and I run Inkblot, and we've stayed friends this whole time. So throughout that, it's just been a bunch of mates passing work to each other and helping out. And the irony is, I was in London for 5 years where all these opportunities were, and I tried and tried and tried my hardest and just got closed doors the whole way. And it took me going all the way back to York, which is where I was trying to escape from, where all of a sudden I started getting opportunities by just people being nice and helping me out. So I guess that would be another bit of advice. Be nice to people, and always try and give out opportunities. So now I want to do that for other people. I want to give people the opportunities that I wasn't given as a young professional, and just
I know what you mean.
Help people out if I can, you know?
Yeah, because I'm a big believer, and it sounds like you are as well. It's definitely not always who you know, what you know, sorry. It's definitely who you know.
It is, and it's how you treat people as well. And how, if you're kind and nice and, you know, just generous with people and with your time and your skills, then it comes back, because people think that guy's good, or that person knows their stuff, but I can work with them. And usually it's more about, can I work with this person, that gets you, I think, the opportunity. So yeah, don't be a dick.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way of sort of saying it. But before we wrap this up, I have got a question about how has doing the YouTube stuff on Soundsphere, like the live streams, how has that helped with your career almost? Are we frozen?
Well, a bit of fun, and I think it helps. I like to help out Dom because he helped me out. So working with Dom has led to some incredible opportunities. So I did a music video with Barry Newman a few years back. That was absolutely fantastic. We've gone to festivals and interviewed some brilliant bands, and just me with a microphone and a camera, just like chatting to these, like, you know, massive celebrities, just chilling out. So if it's got to the point now, because Dom and I are so tight, that if he's like, oh dude, can you go and do this for me, I'm like, yeah, sure, don't worry about it, and I'll help him out as any way that I can. And because the skills that I've built up over the years haven't just been in one thing, it's all related: animation, film, you know, modeling. But it means that if he wants me to do a quick intro animation for a podcast or a thing he's doing, I can just slap that up and give it to him. Or if he wants me to do some audio stuff, I can dip my hands in that as well. So it helps keep the variety going, because commercial work can be a bit boring. Corporate things can be a little bit dry sometimes. So I like the weird stuff. I like you know, music, and if it can be a bit more punked up, I will. So yeah, working with Dom, doing the, you know, anything that he's doing on YouTube basically really helps me to just get that weird, quirky side out and flex that muscle. Keeps me sane, I think, is the best way to put it.
Fair enough. What about doing the live streams yourself, like for TV shows and movies? Has that skill helped you at all? That's really fun, and it helps me to get out of my head, and especially since, you know, all these various lockdowns and stuff, I'm still, and I hope I'm not the only one here, still dealing with this whole
do I want to leave the house today, sort of thing, because you get kind of used to your own company, and I've been living alone for the entirety of well, almost 3 years now. I've been living alone, and you get used to your own world in your own head. So doing things like the live streams and watch alongs that Dom and I've been doing is a really good way of just engaging with people, chatting to people online, and being a bit silly and goofy, and just kind of reminding myself that I can be sociable when I want to be.
Yeah.
So it's I'd say less professional, although I am a dork. I am a huge film nerd, like I said, so I can say, oh, well, here's a link between this show and this actor, and etc. etc. I can talk about the composition of the thing, the story structure. But for me, it's more of a flexing a personal muscle to try and remind myself that I can actually go out and do stuff and be sociable with people. And yeah, like I said, it keeps me sane in that way, because sometimes I just don't leave the house and I'll just sit on my computer all doing work.
Fair enough. But as we look at wrapping this up, we're going to go into a segment that I call generic questions. And essentially, this is where I'm going to ask you your favorite film, favorite franchise, favorite concert you've been to, and favorite music artists. Basically, questions that you might get asked on social media quite regularly, but now you'll have a place to be like, look, I've answered this. Please go watch this. So what's your favorite film of all time, Joe?
Okay, as much as I love art house cinema, French New Wave, German expressionist film, E.T. is my favorite film of all time. I have 3 favorite films. E.T. is at the top because it was always my favorite as a kid. It is, when you watch it now as an adult, it's a beautiful film. It's just brilliant. I also love Jurassic Park. It's just, I love dinosaurs as well. That's another nerdy thing of mine. I bloody love dinosaurs. And Terminator 2. So yes, these are the most popular franchises ever, and they're, very well-known films that everyone's seen, but they're so rewatchable. And I'd love to say, oh, Rome Open City is like my favorite film from 1947, or something like that, some weird independent movie. But I just Terminator 2, E.T.
Fair enough.
These things are great.
There's a reason they're classics. I'll put it like that.
They're well made and really rewatchable. So they're always my top 3. The rest fluctuate depending on what's going on. But yeah.
And then, who is your favorite music artist of all time?
Oh, again, that changes a lot. I'm a big Nine Inch Nails fan. So I'm always going to be our Trent is God. Love him to bits. But then I was rediscovering Placebo the other day. I've always been a huge Placebo fan, and went down a bit of a rabbit hole of just listening to some 90s Placebo, and I was like, you know what, Placebo are up there with The Cure in my opinion for some of the best, most original, unique sounding artists of all time, and they've never done a bad album. Even the lesser good albums are still incredible. So I might just go up and say currently Placebo are my favorite band to listen to.
And then, as we look at wrapping this up, Joe, the question I end all my interviews on is, with YouTube, with podcasting, with social media in general, we're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of very weird way. So what is one article, video, or maybe even short film that you've been involved in that you're like, don't go back and watch that, I've grown a lot since then? And then what is one that you're like, if you want to know my body of work, go check that out?
Oh God, what am I most embarrassed by? I think everything. So when I was starting out, I did a lot of little music videos for small bands, mostly in Preston. And there is a short film, a music video that I did, and it is I did it for a mate. I did it for 100 quid, and I did it in less than a day. And it's called Wag the Wonder Bitch. And it's from a band, an artist called Richard Lomax and the Tontine. I think I'm saying that right. If you want, I could send you a link to it.
Please.
It's basically about 2 omnichords, like these weird 80s little musical instruments that find love, and and the whole thing was done with basically me drawing eyes and mouths and blue tacking them onto onto this plastic musical instrument, and then waggling it around off screen with these little paper hands. And it is both awful and fantastic at the same time, because it's not trying to be good, but oddly it gets quite emotional, and you kind of just, after a few moments, you just go with the fact that these are just plastic things with eyes on. So Wag the Wonder Bitch, I am not embarrassed by it in the slightest, because I think it was really good, and I did it for 100 quid for a mate, and I did it in a day, and it shows. But yeah, go watch it, because it's silly. It's really, really silly.
Fair enough. And then as we wrap this up, where can the good people find you on social media or your content?
So we have all of the social media. I am really rubbish with social media, but if you just Google Inkblot Films, there's an Inkblot Productions or Films that's in a different country, I think, like Zambia or somewhere, and that's not us. So Yorkshire, just put that in there as well. But we come up. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. A lot of our stuff's on our Vimeo, but we've just got a fancy new website as well. Won a competition, got a new website. So that's all our sort of main stuff's on there. But yeah, if you want to get in touch, any of our social media is the best way. Just send us a message, and I will try and respond. Even though I have this sort of innate hatred of social media, so I rarely ever go on it. But I do have it on my phone, and I will get a notification. So
fair enough. So if you guys like this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow bodyslam.net and the Rest Watch podcast on Twitter for my show with Cassidy Haynes. And follow and subscribe to bodyslam.net to watch the Rest Watch podcast, my show with Cassidy Haynes. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.